Podcast that combines real NFL analysis with a splash of pop culture and a dash of the random. Let's get this pigskin party started with your hosts, Brian McFadden, Will Southard, and Tommy Yu.
Welcome everybody to the PPP presented by DraftKings. My name is Brian. Please, if you're listening or watching and you've never subscribed before, now is a really good time. So subscribe, and you know what? While you're doing that, why don't you tell a friend? Because that is how we grow this pigskin party. Guys, I'm back. Apparently, Will couldn't be bothered to be here for my return. I had a nice Thanksgiving break, a lot of wine, way too much food, but I'm excited to be back on the PPP talking some football. We got my boy Tommy Yu, and since Will wasn't on, we got producer Anthony Weiner back on for the second straight week. Guys, how you feeling this week?
Anthony is the people's champion. I think we all have to be on record to say that. I feel like any episode he's on, our numbers skyrocket. So I'm glad to have him on. I wish Will was here as well. But hey, it's nice to have our fearless leader back. Welcome back, Brian. We missed you.
Thank you. Good to be back. I think Anthony is secretly excited whenever one of us misses because he's like, yes, my opportunity to get on the show. Anthony, how are you feeling this week? I mean, I know another loss from Detroit, maybe one of the hardest losses this season, if I do say so. And your Rams aren't looking too good either. So where's your headspace at?
Yeah, it was definitely another tough loss because it was, again, so close. It was on Thanksgiving. It's the annual Thanksgiving game, and we've lost 5 of them in a row so far. It's tough, but on the bright side, I had a turkey in the oven, so that kept my spirits up. So
you ate your feelings, basically.
Exactly.
Well, the things I learned by listening, and yes, I did listen to both episodes.
Oh, no.
Great job. You guys killed it. I learned that each of your preferences for Thanksgiving food was interesting, Tommy, especially yours. I think all of you agreed that Tommy's plate of choice was, probably the lowest ranking, and also that I was purely by happenstance assigned every single game to cover this week. So you know what I did, guys? I did that. I watched all the games, or I did what I could, red zone and highlights and whatnot. So I'm excited. I'm stoked. We're getting that much closer to the playoffs. The playoff picture is finally starting to take shape. I also feel like some of these preseason narratives we had that might have looked a little sketchy in the beginning are starting to come true. The Colts are playing well, who I predicted to actually win the AFC South. The Dolphins have won 4 in a row. The Steelers are stinking. So a lot of these things, maybe it just took a little while.
Washington is looking kind of good.
Washington has won 3 in a row.
Season.
Yeah.
But that has been the narrative throughout. That is not a new thing. But I just feel like I have a pretty good idea of who these teams are at this point. And to be determined if that helps me pick my games or not. Probably not, if I'm saying so. But we will certainly get to that. Are you guys ready to jump in and recap all of the lovely Thanksgiving Week 12 action?
Yeah,
let's do it.
I'm ready.
Great. Quick reminder, we are a proud member of the Pigskin Podcast Network. So make sure to check out all the other awesome NFL podcasts that are on there. Most of them are individual team-based, so if you like listening to us covering the entire NFL and all 32 teams, but you have a favorite team, go check out Pigskin Podcast Network. Pick the team you like. We will have a podcast that represents you. And of course, as always, check out our wonderful sponsor, DraftKings. So let's dive right in, recapping all of the Week 12 games. There are 18 weeks. We got to keep remembering that. So we're about 2/3 of the way through. Like I said, I feel like we're finally starting to get a feel for these teams, who they really are. Let's go ahead and start with those Thanksgiving games. And of course, we have to start with the early game. This is a good thing for you, Anthony. Let's just get There goes I missed the double. I missed the double sound drop from Anthony. He's giving me one just to make me feel.
We're mid-season form already.
Mid-season form. But yeah, we are going to start with the first game, the early game, the Bears at the Lions. So at least we can get this out of the way. I think, first of all, everybody in this podcast, myself included, picked the Lions to win. Well, no, I think Tommy might have switched to the Bears last second. But like a lot of people in the media, like this was the game. If there was a game that the Lions could win, it's at home on Thanksgiving against Andy freaking Dalton, but that's not what happened. This is where you guys give your analysis.
Right.
Unless there's no
wait for
analysis
Anthony
to
to jump
give.
in. This is his specialty, so
Yeah.
I'm going to see what he has to say because he is the expert.
And we finally saw a little bit of talent on the field. We saw plays being run. We saw vertical passes by Goff out of the pocket. It was awful, but the coaching staff lost that game. And that part of it was awful. If the coaching staff knew what they were, instead of running draws on 3rd and 22, calling 2 timeouts in a row, you don't do that. You don't call 2 timeouts in a row, especially in a situation. We allowed them to get down and to kick an easy field goal. And I blame the coaching staff. The players did not deserve that. And I think Dan Campbell and company needs to be accountable for that. That game should have been won. I think we all know it. The whole country was watching because it was the only game on Thanksgiving morning. You got to watch it. And it was embarrassing.
So this was actually the only game I didn't get to see any of. I was with the family. We had plans. It's early on the West Coast. The game was at 9:30. I caught the second half of the Raiders-Cowboys game and all of the Saints-Bills game. So to you two who watched the game, and you especially as a Lions fan, Anthony, we have been touting this whole year like, oh, this is not a very talented team, but Dan Campbell's coaching them up. Dan Campbell is getting them to play above their talent level. Are you starting to flip the idea there? Are we starting to say maybe they were just that Dan Campbell is actually part of the problem here? I mean, we know this roster isn't great, but at some point they have to win a game, right?
They have to. And Anthony Lynn was already struggling, and that's why Campbell took his place, but he's not doing any better. So is it an OC problem? Is it a coaching problem? Or is there no talent on the field? And it's really all these questions are raised watching these games. And if these problems can be resolved, we can get at least maybe 2, maybe 3 games to end the season. Still get that first pick next year's draft, and maybe come back up next year with lessons learned. Because Campbell has a lot to improve on, and I guess it's just seeing if he can improve on that. He signed for a 6-year deal. He's not going anywhere for a while, and so he needs to prove that he's capable of coaching this team up. Because the confidence that he had at the beginning of the season, where he was going to bite kneecaps off, that confidence went away, and he has shown. And I'm disappointed, but I want to see where this could possibly go.
And Tommy, what's your? I want to look up the Lions' schedule. I'm curious because, like I said, if you can't beat the Bears with Andy Dalton, I'm not sure how many more games are going to be winnable. But while I look that up, Tommy, quick thoughts on the Bears-Lions game.
Just to kind of just jump on some of the things that Anthony said, I definitely do agree that Campbell was kind of like the darling in the NFL community when he had those funny quotes when he was like, yeah, I drink like 4 gallons of coffee and blah. Like he was like the darling. Everyone was talking about him and everyone saw how emotional he got after each lossing. We were so close. And that's something that you would want to see a coach do. But I remember specifically after, I don't know who they lost to. Sorry, Anthony. I don't remember. They have so many on the schedule already, but it was one of the games where Campbell was crying yet again. And I remember coming onto this podcast saying, guys, like, I'm done with this. Like, every coach is upset after they lose. Just because a man is crying doesn't mean he didn't want to lose more than another coach that might have lost.
Yeah,
that
they
week.
just process the losses differently. Urban Meyer, lap dance. Dan Campbell, crying to his giant coffee.
Exactly. So when I was done with the charade, I was like, all right, this can only take him so far. Eventually, the finger has to be pointed at him. You can't keep saying, oh, we're trying so hard and losing. And so I'm not saying it's all his fault, but I always thought he was in over a little above his head kind of thing. And I am really, really tough with coaches. I remember I had the same kind of talks for Miami too, Brian, when I was like, oh man, I don't like how they're being run there. But it's ironic the Eagles fan is all of a sudden snobby when it comes to head coaches. But no, I'm really, really hoping that Campbell could turn it around because he is a very fun person to root on. But like you said, Brian, I'm sure you have the schedule up and everything. It's just really difficult to be able to say, ooh, if they couldn't beat the Bears with all the drama that was going on with, oh, maybe it's Nagy's last game. It's on Thanksgiving. They can do it. They're so close. And then to see the coaching staff now lose it for him? I don't know. Brian, does it look like they have a win on there somewhere?
So 6 games remaining. They're 0-10-1. You've got the Vikings next week. Yes, division game, fine. But the Vikings they play to everyone. They either play up to the talent or down to the talent. That's just how they do. But I just can't imagine, like, I think we're all going to pick the Vikings in that game. The Broncos the week after that at Mile High. Denver's frisky. Like, they are surprising. They just beat the Chargers. They whooped up on the Cowboys 2 weeks ago. They're a little bit up and down too, but if they're playing the way they are now, that's a loss. Cardinals, no, just pack it in right now. Murray and Hopkins will be a few weeks back from their recovery at that point. Falcons on December 26th. I think that is the one. It's in Atlanta. So, but that's your one opportunity. You know, the Falcons, they've got our boy Cordaro is their entire offense. That was enough to beat Jacksonville, but is that enough for the last? So I think that's the one opportunity. They finish out at Seahawks, which I know Seattle hasn't been playing great, but it's still hard to be able to imagine picking the Lions.
You think by then Russell Wilson would have hopefully figured it out?
Correct. Hopefully his mallet finger is fully healed by that point, and he remembers that he has DK Metcalf on his team if that ever happens.
I'll talk about that later.
And then finishing up against the Packers. So really that Falcons game, December 26th, day after Christmas, that's your best bet, Anthony. So circle that on the calendar.
Maybe a late Christmas gift for you, Anthony. Detroit will hand deliver it.
Late Christmas gift. I hope for your sake it is true. But let's go ahead and move on to the second Thanksgiving game. Las Vegas Raiders 36, Dallas Cowboys 33. This is a game that was... the result, certainly, I think all of us picked Dallas on this. I think most people picked Dallas on this. Seeing Derek Carr actually producing again and getting Hunter Renfrow involved, especially late in the game. I think he finished with 140 receiving yards. The Cowboys struggled without their top two receivers. That was one thing that maybe we didn't take into account enough, that they have a lot of weapons. But if you're without Lamb and Cooper, it's easier for a defense to scheme against the weapons that are left. Even though Gallup's a very good receiver, Cedric Wilson, they both went over 100 yards. Obviously, you've got Zeke and Tony Pollard, Dalton Schultz. But if you don't have those two elite receivers to have to scheme for and worry about, it's a little bit easier to shut down. Most of the game, the offense was struggling, and then garbage time, Dak made a comeback, but ultimately it wasn't enough. Tommy, I'd love to hear from you first on this as our NFC East guy.
Yeah, kind of like what you mentioned towards the end there. I feel like the end score made it seem a lot closer than what I was watching. It's not that the Cowboys weren't playing well. They were obviously able to score a lot of points. It didn't all come in garbage time, but it was when it was a little bit out of hand. So they tried to make that comeback. But I think a big takeaway was also what you said, Derek Carr kind of putting it together a little bit more. I know there were so many question marks surrounding this team besides the Gruden thing, but Henry Ruggs, whether we want to admit it or not, was a big factor to that offense. The guy that was able to take off the top of a defense. They tried to do that with, Deshaun Jackson now and blah, blah, blah. But they're still able to put something together. This is a team that has every excuse to just throw the towel and say, all right, we're just going to hit the reset. This is a lost year because just like anytime we think about this season, everyone's going to just think of all the controversy. So it's fine. We'll phone it in. But they're not. So I feel like that's, as a football fan, as a neutral, I say neutral, they were against the Cowboys. Obviously, I was cheering on the Raiders, but like as kind of a pseudo fan, that's kind of something you want to see out of a team. Like I'm sure, Anthony, you would agree that if you saw the fight that the Raiders put in day in and day out from your Lions, that you would be happy, right?
Oh, definitely, of course. And the fight against the Cowboys was, I mean, it was amazing to see. I fell asleep after dinner. But
the food coma set in.
Yeah,
that'll happen on Thanksgiving. You have to pace yourself.
Yeah,
can't blame you there.
I was falling asleep while the game was on, so I fell asleep while listening to it. And all I heard was Derek Carr, 25-yard pass, Derek Carr, 15-yard pass, Derek Carr this, Derek Carr that. And I'm like, wow, okay, so he's producing, and this is exciting. Luckily, I woke up to see overtime, so I did end up seeing the end of the game. And I thought it was pretty impressive how Las Vegas went out there. It was very high scoring. Those are always the most exciting games. And, I mean, probably the best Thanksgiving game this week. So.
And we can say what we want about Lamb and Cooper missing, but those guys don't play defense. So even with them on the field, and maybe they would have allowed the Cowboys to score more than 33 and win, but your defense still let up 36 points to a Raiders team that sure has the capability to do that, but has been very up and down this season. They were up in this one. Good for the Raiders. So moving on to the final Thanksgiving game, New Orleans Saints 6, Buffalo Bills 31. I feel like this was a game that seemed like an obvious pick, but like there was this part of me that worried that the Saints would come out and the Bills would fall flat like they did like against Jacksonville and Tennessee, and that didn't happen. The Bills were able to dominate both through the run and the pass, and the defense just absolutely shut down Trevor Siemian and that Saints offense to the point where it appears as though Taysom Hill will be starting at quarterback. First of all, I don't know what took them so long. I mean, Simeon's what, 0-4 at this point? And Hill has started for you in the past. I never understood that decision, but fine. But yes, it's about time. Whether he is, a true caliber quarterback like we like to see, he at least gives you an extra element that Simeon doesn't with his rushing ability. He has run this offense previously in past seasons. He has experience working with Sean Payton. So I'm excited for next week with Hill at the at QB. But I don't have a lot to say on this game. The Bills just dominated.
All I just want to add is this game just brought a lot of comfort for me in a year where upsets are happening left and right. Some days we're like, is it opposite day? What's going on? No, this game went exactly the way that we thought. There were a little bit of, I was like, maybe it's a track game, but at the end of the day, when you look at the scoreline and you see 31-6, you're like, oh, okay. I'm a little comforted. So on Thanksgiving, the Bills said, all right, guys, we don't need to freak out. We'll do exactly what we were supposed to do. So brought me a little bit of comfort. How about you, Anthony?
Yeah, I watched this game too. And what I noticed...
So this was after you woke up?
This is after.
Well, no, he saw the PP Pod QB Josh Allen play. He's like, oh, I got to watch this.
That's right. He set an alarm.
I noticed something, and the Bills went out, and they were having so much fun. They went out, and they played like they haven't played all season. And I think that playoff potential Super Bowl Buffalo Bills team is back. I know you're against the New Orleans Saints. I mean, they were frustrated the entire time while the Bills were out having so much fun. And I think that has a lot to do with it, with that mentality, I guess. I think the Bills are back, and I could definitely see more things coming out of this.
I think we're 1 week too early to determine if the Bills are back because they've got a big matchup on Monday Night Football for first place in the AFC East. If they win that game against the Patriots, we can say the Super Bowl Bills are back. Let's go ahead and jump into the Sunday games, starting with Super Bowl defending champ Tampa Bay Buccaneers really had to fight for this one. It looked like Indy was going to run away with a pretty easy victory against the Bucs. Brady, once again, didn't look all that sharp. They eventually got some good games out of Gronk and out of Leonard Fournette, who out of nowhere decided to have a 4-touchdown game. I feel like the Colts had the opportunity to win this, though. They had a crucial turnover that ended up kind of sparking the Bucs. Bucs get the victory at the end of the day. I think this is a bigger reflection on a missed opportunity for the Colts than it necessarily taught us much about the Bucs. What do you guys think?
I personally completely agree. I thought the Colts were going to run away with it when they had a nice little lead in the beginning of the game. I was like, now it's JT time. I understand that the Bucs run defense is good, but it's Jonathan Taylor. He's built different. So let's see if they can hold this lead. And then
fun fact, they went 23 straight plays without giving him a touch.
Unbelievable. And then unfortunately Carson Wentz started to do Carson Wentz things, and then I was like, oh no, we've seen this script before. But like you said, I feel like this had to be a huge morale blow for the Colts because they had it in their grasp. They saw the path to be able to beat the Buccaneers after being on a hot streak, mind you, and then they kind of utterly botched it and let Brady do what Brady does. So I feel like that had to be detrimental, but I feel like a lot of the praise has to be given to the Buccaneers interior line defense. Just unbelievable. Vita Vea with his tooth being knocked out, bleeding everywhere.
Lost a tooth. It kept going.
Dude, he does not care. He's smiling.
He was smiling, yeah.
I was thinking, like, sometimes when I drink a cold beverage, the nerves in my teeth, or this guy literally broke his tooth and he's smiling. I'm like, dude, he's crazy.
Man, brain freeze will knock me out for 10 minutes. This guy's on another level.
He's built different. But yeah, big shout out to the interior defense, because I think that, although obviously the Buccaneers having to score 30 plus points to win, offense gets credit, but a lot of it for the turnaround has to be that interior pressure they're able to bring.
Yeah, I'll say this too. I was not aside from a few mistakes, Wentz actually played pretty well. He threw some nice deep balls. He had that one to Doolin or some, like, I don't even know who that guy is.
Yeah, that bomb.
Like a fifth string wide receiver on the Colts, which isn't saying much because they don't have a ton of wide receiver depth. But it was a beautiful deep ball. Like, Wentz made some plays in this. And, spoiler alert, we're going to talk about the in-season Hard Knocks with the Colts. One thing I thought after watching this game, I'm excited to watch the Hard Knocks after the episode that has this game, because I just feel like the ups and downs emotionally of the Colts getting that big lead and then watching the Bucs come back and just feeling like such a great, and the Titans, who we'll get to that, got destroyed. Like, this was your opportunity to actually have a chance to climb back in the AFC South race and possibly the Titans have beat them twice, so you're really against the 8 ball, but to have a realistic shot of winning that division now, it's going to be that much tougher.
This was definitely one of the more exciting games to watch. I loved it. It was entertaining as hell. But Jonathan Taylor wasn't used enough. And, I mean, what would you say, like 24 plays without touching the ball or something? I mean...
Basically from like 10 minutes in the second quarter until like 13 left in the fourth. Just no touches.
Game. Like, was it Tampa Bay? was the Buccaneers defense like, we're going to find a way to stop them? Or were they like, all right, we're just going to let Carson Wentz pass it, which didn't work out because the Colts could have won that game. They didn't. And I think the Buccaneers came on top because they're a better team. That's what I got out of that game.
Let's move on to a game that was surprising, but a game that I imagine we don't have to spend too much time on. Zach Wilson, in his return, leads the New York Jets to a victory 21-14 on the road against the Houston Texans. Wilson actually didn't play great. He had a really bad interception where he flicked it off the back of one of his running backs' jerseys, and it flipped into the Texans. But he looked lost. He had one where his helmet was ripped off. He looked like the game was too fast for him, but nevertheless, the Jets made the plays they needed to. Texans jumped out to a 14-3 lead and then weren't able to put any points on after that. So surprising in that aspect. I think we all also picked Houston in this one. I don't have any additional context here. Tommy, anything wise to add, or we can move on to this quickly?
No, the only thing I want to add is, even in this game where it's the New York Jets versus the Houston Texans, is the bottom of the barrel game, you still see the Jets somehow being able to pull off a win. So that's why I look to you, Anthony, and say, look, the Lions can do it. The Jets randomly did it. The Houston Texans can do it. Gosh darn it, Detroit will do it. But Anthony, do you have anything to add on this game? Because personally, same takeaways. Zach Wilson looks like a rookie. Don't need to read too much more into that. But overall, it's still nice to see them to be able to put something together to be able to pull off a dub.
Yeah, for sure. It's always good to see a bad team win, because it kind of tells you, hey, they're still a professional football team. They're still out winning games. I know you're against the Texans, who aren't that.
The freaking Jags have won 2. All right, if the Jags can win 2 games, the Lions can win 1. I hope
just a single one.
I mean, no, it's
Atlanta
way too close to not win 1. So let's go. Yeah, no, that's all I got for Justin Texans.
Let's keep it moving right on over to the end. Obviously, I know this is a disappointing result, but I have to start with you on this. Across the board, I believe we all picked Philadelphia here. Very surprising, based on how that team has come on the offensive side of the ball. They've really focused on a run-first attack. It looks like they went away from that, even though that's actually the way to attack the Giants is not through the secondary. They've got some great cover guys, James Bradbury. It is attacking on the ground, and as well as that has worked from Philly, it looks like Sirianni's like, nope, I'm just going to put the ball in Jalen's hands and have him throw it to Jalen Reagor 7 times, of all people, and let's see how that works out.
This was, you so eloquently put why I was so frustrated at this game. And I'm not trying to gatekeep how Eagles fans should be, but I feel like I'm a true Eagles fan, so I do want them to lose, because I feel like they have even if they somehow stay in the playoffs, I don't care, because I don't care about pride. They don't have a shot at the championship, so let's try to get better draft position. So I want them to lose, but it always sucks to lose to a rival in the way that we lost. Jalen Hurts had no touch on any of his balls, and like you mentioned, we were one of the most efficient, not the best, but one of the most efficient rushing teams in the past 3-4 weeks. We've just completely fit the script and started to do well. And even last game, not this past game, but 2 weeks before, Jalen Hurts actually looked like a competent quarterback. So people are saying, wait, hold on here. The Eagles might have found a quarterback. And then that gave me a little bit of hope, but I was like, hold on, we don't know yet. And then this happens. So I don't know if it's the offensive coordinators being like, you know what? We've won a couple games and we ran a lot. Let's get cheeky and flip the script against the Giants because, you know, if we could throw it against anyone, hopefully it could be against them. And I guess it didn't work out. I don't know what the game plan was, but it was very frustrating to watch. But I'm not surprised. And I want to apologize on air to all of you that picked the Eagles because, unfortunately, we played ourselves.
I mean, if somebody would have told you, yeah, the Eagles defense, they're going to hold Danny Duds and the Giants to 13 points. How do you feel about their chances? I'm sure you would have been like, oh, great. I can't wait to watch this game.
I never bet on games, but I guess I'm going to put all my money on the Eagles this week then, huh?
Yeah.
Then that's
crazy.
when the monkey paw curls, right?
13-7 final score. The Eagles had been actually sniffing the playoffs and possibly an outside shot at making a run at the Cowboys. No, that went down the drain very quickly. Let's keep on moving on. I do want to mention one thing before we move to the next game. Here's a quick look at the current NFL draft order. Now, this includes trades, so you're going to hear some teams multiple times. Number 1, Anthony. Here's some consolation. Detroit Lions.
Yay, you're number 1.
You're number 1 in something.
We're number 1 in something.
We're number 1 in something. There you go. Number 2, Texans. Number 3, Jaguars. Number 4, Jets. Number 5, Jets. Number 6, Giants. Number 7, Giants. Number 8, Eagles.
Go
Number
Birds!
9, Eagles.
Go Birds!
Number 10, Panthers. There are 3 teams with a combined 6 picks in the first 10 picks of the 2022 NFL Draft. And you don't like that. You don't like NFC East football. 2 of them are in New York, and 2 of them are in the NFC East. That tells you a lot about that state and the division that you so lovingly follow, Mr. U. All right, let's move on to my Miami Dolphins, who I picked against, and I'm kind of thinking I should do this from now on because
The curse.
either I get the pick right and the Dolphins lose, but whatever, or I get the pick wrong and the Dolphins win. I'm a winner each way. So I'm kind of feeling that this might be the approach I take going forward. Stay tuned. We will see. But 33-10, the offense looked efficient. That's really all they need to be if the defense and special teams plays this well. They had a blocked kick return for a touchdown. They held Cam Newton to 5 for 21. Here's a fun fact nugget for you. That's the lowest completion percentage for a quarterback with at least 20 attempts since 2004. Anybody want to take a wild guess of what quarterback that was?
Oh, man. I don't want to I'm going to be so wrong. You got to hit me with the facts. Who was it?
Hint. It's Anthony's team.
Anthony, you got to speak up, friend. What Lions quarterback was this bad?
I can't remember his name.
Joey Harrington.
Joey Harrington. I had his jersey. I don't know why.
You cursed him, man. You cursed him. Joey Harrington went 5 for 22 back in 2004. But that just shows you, I believe they had 3 interceptions. Xavier Howard always getting involved in that. The Dolphins defense looked like and they honestly have for a while. This is 4 straight wins. Some of the competition hasn't been that great, but the Panthers are a frisky team, right? They beat the Cardinals a couple weeks ago. The defense has been strong, but Tua 27 of 31. Jalen Waddle, hello. Like, that's why you were picked where you were picked. He was on display, 9 catches for almost 140 yards. It was a top 5 finish among Dolphins rookies in franchise history. And the defense just played lights out. CMC not only didn't produce, but also was injured in the game and is now on IR and will miss the rest of the season. Will in our group chat brought up, is CMC a bust? That's something we can discuss at a future time. That might be a bit premature, but something to keep in mind. But I'm done gloating about my Dolphins. This is as good a result as I could have asked for. I'd love to hear what you guys thought of this game.
This was like the most anticlimactic game I've ever watched in my life because I was like, oh my gosh, it's Cam Newton time. Like, this is going to be so much fun to watch. He's going to do the airplane. He might not be like, MVP Cam, but this is going to be great. Then the Dolphins absolutely gutted them. Like, no remorse. They did not care how it looked. They just decimated them so much to the point that you guys got them benched. Like, that is how dominant Miami was. And so
at one point, Matt Rule's like, I'll take PJ Walker over
exactly.
Cam Newton.
In his thought, he's like, you know what? Yeah, I don't want to watch. Like, that's how much of the domination came from Miami. So, I mean, hats off to Miami. That defense is finally looking up to the billing of what everyone thought it was going to be. So I'm really excited to see what's going to look like, because I don't want to toot my own horn, Bry guy. But remember, when we were having that talk of who's going to have the better season, Jamar Chase, Devontae Smith, or Jalen Waddle, I did pick Waddle. I thought he was going to be the one. And even without Tua, he's just been consistent getting the targets. And now finally, the thing that's changed now is downfield passes. And our boy Tua is doing it. I know this whole pod has been, at least me personally, I've been a Tua advocate trying to push for him. It's very nice to see, hopefully, him changing the minds of Miami, saying, hey, I can be the guy.
Yeah, I liked seeing Tua succeed, and he did great. Jalen Waddle, too. I mean, there's so much potential on this team that hasn't been showing until the last 4 weeks. And it's really cool to see. I mean, the coaching is on point. The defense is looking good. It was a fun game to watch. I'm not a huge fan of Carolina, so it's kind of cool to see a team that I kind of like be a team that
You're welcome.
So it was cool.
Quick peek at the remainder of the Dolphins' schedule. Next week, at home against the Giants. The week after that, at home against the Jets.
The
week after that, on the road against the Saints.
On
the road against the Titans. I guess that game will depend on who's healthy for Tennessee. If they don't have A.J. Brown still, Derrick Henry,
King Henry might come back.
If Henry's back,
this is my delusion.
Probably
let me live this life.
Okay, I notice I'm not going to correct you there. I don't even know if that's true. I haven't fact checked that.
It's
and then
not.
finishing up at home against the Patriots. So that could easily be 3 wins in a row. At this point, it's too early to tell, but let's say coin flip for the Titans and then most likely a loss based on how the Patriots are playing. Then you're looking at finishing 9-8. They could finish with a winning record. Not sure if that'll be good enough to get them in the playoffs, but for a team that was 1-7 at one point, that's a respectable finish.
You gotta love the fight, dude.
Gotta love it. That's what we like about Flores. It's nice to see that it's actually coming to fruition. Hopefully they can keep up the momentum. Speaking of those Tennessee Titans and New England Patriots, Tennessee Titans basically playing with, I don't know, fourth stringers, like practice squads guys. Here's a fun fact. Before we even get to the score, the Tennessee Titans have used more players through 12 weeks than any team in NFL history. Meaning they've
my goodness.
They have had more players on their roster, active roster, because of all the injuries they've had to deal with. And part of that is the last 2 years, IR, you can get people back after 3 weeks. It used to be once they're on IR, they're gone. But they have actually used more players than any other team in NFL history. That's how injured they've been. They had everybody out for this game. A.J. Brown, Julio Jones, and of course, King Derrick Henry. There wasn't much left. Still, they actually rushed for over 200 yards. They had 2 100-yard rushers in this game. Didn't really matter. Final score, Patriots 36, Titans 13. Mack Jones didn't look amazing, but he didn't have to. The defense played great. Kendrick Bourne with a great running catch where he's like tiptoeing the sideline. Who would have seen that coming? And the Patriots have now won 6 in a row, are in first place in the AFC East. This is very hard for me to say without like throwing up in my mouth. And the number 2 overall seed.
See it.
The number 2 overall seed behind the Ravens as it stands right now.
He's doing it. He's doing it again. Like we all saw the writing on the wall, and it's happening right now. The prophecy is being fulfilled right before our eyes.
I hate this man.
His name is McCorkle. It is great.
Oh, I thought you were talking about Belichick. I don't mind McCorkle. He seems all right.
It is Belichick who's obviously the
Belichick is doing
mastermind.
this.
But McCorkle, like you just said, he didn't have to have a great game, but like what he's doing on an efficiency level is not what a rookie should do. Yes, he's not the most sexy, most exciting player to watch, but the touch he has on the placement of his balls, just everything that he's able to do is not something that you would expect from a rookie. The poise, I actually even saw a meme where you see like a press conference when he's in New England, when he's like, it's only like the second press conference he's smiling, he's cracking little jokes, and now he's just like an all-out brainwashed patriot. He's like, yep, this is just how it is. We just want to win. Like it's kind of sad, but kind of funny. But regardless, McCorkle is just balling out, but it's a lot of fun to kind of see it happen when the Patriots got Mack Jones in the draft without having trade up. This is what we all feared as a joke. We're like, oh, what if it happens again? Well, guys, let's stop joking because it's actually happening now. So, I mean, it's great. And of course, my final parting words is I feel so bad for Vrabel. I feel like he proves day in, day out that he's a great coach. He is maximizing the potential of the roster he has. But man, oh man, I know injury bugs are just unfair, but I feel like they have just been violently addicted to the Tennessee Titans.
By the way, Mack Jones, currently the number 2, according to PFF, the number 2 highest graded rookie of all positions so far through 12 weeks, behind only Creed Humphrey, the center for the Chiefs. So great draft pick for Kansas City with an 83.9 overall grade. So
the rich just get richer, huh?
Everybody's debating, is it Trevor, maybe Zach Wilson, Justin Fields, Trey Lance? No, get McCorkle in that Patriots offense. It was McCorkle all along.
It's like that it's like that ugly girl that just takes off her glasses. You're like, it was you all along. Why did we overlook you? Oh, McCorkle. Yeah, so
I'm definitely past the point of betting and counting against these Patriots. This team is working. It's working. I don't really see a ton of weaknesses. They don't have any extreme strengths. They don't have a stud running back like Derrick Henry or a stud wide receiver like Devontae Adams or a Stephen Gilmore type, although J.C. Jackson just got his 7th interception. But they're just so good across the board, and they can beat you in different ways, and they're so well coached. I mean, damn it, the freaking Patriots are good again. I don't want to move on. Anthony, I'll hear about you on the next one. I need to get off this game for my own sanity. Moving on to the AFC North. Cincinnati Bengals 41, Pittsburgh Steelers 10. Who would have seen this coming in the preseason? I mean, it makes sense. And I picked Cincy. I don't remember what the rest of you guys picked here, but I was pretty confident the Bengals were going to win. I did not know they were going to win by 31. Anthony, what did you see in this game?
I saw a Bengals team that wanted to win. They're kind of on and off this season. Like I like to root for them, and I'm like, oh, they're going to win this one, then they lose. It's like, okay,
they're the team of the PPP. They have been for a while. Yeah,
we love them.
So they'll lose one and be like, oh, maybe they're not that good. But then they'll go out and win and be like, oh, maybe they're good. And then they'll go out and lose and like, maybe they're not that good. It's back and forth. I don't know. I don't understand.
By the way, have you noticed there's a lot of teams like that this year? The variance level. Like DVOA actually tracks variance level, like how much difference can you expect in team. I feel like most of the teams in the NFL are just any given week, you don't know what you're going to get. Look at what the Broncos have done, right? Look at what the Eagles have done. It's like you get tied into a narrative after 2 to 3 games, and then the next week, the Raiders is just completely different. Look at what the Chiefs. It's just a strange season.
It's very strange. I mean, it might be unlike, and it's the longest season ever in the NFL. It kind of tells you something. It's kind of poetic in a way. And I don't know. I liked watching that game. I had this one on, the Bengals and Steelers, and I put Joe Mixon in my DFS lineups. I put Jamar Chase in my DFS lineups, and they blew up. And I'm like, yeah, let's go. Like, this is it. This is that Bengals team that we've been waiting to see, and they just beat a rival. And I'm excited to see them possibly, make it to playoffs, maybe wild card, or they can beat the Ravens out.
I feel like Mixon has gone under the radar a little bit, which is crazy because he's actually been one of the best running backs in the NFL this year. But you hear, obviously, Jonathan Taylor getting the most hype. You had Leonard Fournette with 4 touchdowns this week. You had Austin Eckler with 4 touchdowns last week. Derrick Henry doing Derrick Henry things before he got injured. You had all of this kind of hype and these storylines around other running backs. CMC, before he got injured, had a couple great games. But Joe Mixon has just been an absolute stud. I don't have the stats in front of me, but I want to say Burrow only threw the ball like 20 times. It was efficient. He was very good, but they didn't have to. They gave the ball. Mixon had 28 carries in this for like 160 yards, a couple touchdowns. When you've got an offense that's running that efficiently and a defense that's playing to this level, granted, I think the Steelers' offense is dreadful. I've been saying that since last year. The Bengals are going to be a tough team come playoff time.
Yeah, I feel like kind of like what you said, Cincinnati has transitioned from the early version of the Burrow-led offense where they were making him throw like 40 times a game, and they have fully made that transition into a running team. And that offensive line is actually surprisingly pretty proficient at run blocking. And like you mentioned, Joe Mixon is kind of that enigma that the fantasy community kind of overlooked, because he's the type of running back that will always come in like 3rd to 6th. He might not be the number 1, because you'll have those random running backs that scores like 8 touchdowns in a week, but Mixon's going to be the guy that touches the ball 30 to 35 times a game, gets you about $125 and a touchdown maybe, and a couple of catches here and there. Like, he's just so solid, and I feel like a lot of people wanted off on the Mixon train when he was getting hurt a lot in previous seasons, but this year, now with a good quarterback, it's great to see. And one last thing, I want to give a shout out to Mr. T. Higgins. A lot of people were doubting him, saying, all right, it's just a Jamar show now.
2 touchdowns.
And yeah, 2 tutties. He looked fantastic. And the funny part is, no one could have predicted it. Like, it was a game where Joe Burrow didn't really throw the ball that much, and T. Higgins still shows out. I feel like that just shows you how proficient this offense can be. So I think for those reasons, that's why we're in on the Bengals. They're just such a fun team to cheer on for.
Sneak peek for our Hires and Flyers. Joe Mixon may be making an appearance. He is currently RB3, FYI, at least in PPR leagues. This is, like you said, 3 to 6. Like, he just may not get the hype, but he just quietly produces week in and week out. Last early game from Sunday, the Atlanta Falcons 21, Jacksonville Jaguars 14. This was basically Cordaro Patterson versus the Jaguars.
Patterson, you mean the Cordaro Patterson Falcons, right? The Atlanta Pattersons. I'm pretty sure that's their legal team name.
The Atlanta Corduroys. Come on, we got to get his name right here.
I'm so sorry. Yeah,
our boy
I gotta get it right.
Corduroy. I'm so hyped on him this year. I have him in, I think, 4 of my 6 or 7 season-long leagues. Big Patterson fan. 100 yards rushing and 2 touchdowns. So literally, he scored as many touchdowns himself as the Jaguars did. I don't have a lot else to add to this game other than that can't be their entire offense. Like, Pitts was quiet in this game. Obviously, they still don't have Ridley. I believe Russell Gage scored the 3rd touchdown. The Falcons are going to, like, if they want to beat the Lions on December 26th, the day after Christmas, like, they're going to have to find, maybe not against Detroit, but they're going to have to find more offense than just Cordaro Patterson, as fun as that is for us to talk about, because technically they're still in the hunt. I mean, by the way, all but like 4 teams in the NFL are in the playoff hunt right now because of how wacky the season is. Do you guys have any additional context for this game, or do you want to keep moving on?
I kind of thought
I feel like,
oh no,
yeah, go
on.
You guys are so polite. Just Anthony, go.
So I was watching the Jaguars play, and I thought they were going to do a little bit better. I want to see Trevor Lawrence succeed. Not a big fan of Urban Meyer. I think if there's a different coach, then their season would be completely different. But that's a different conversation. The Falcons just losing Julio Jones a couple years ago, and now Calvin Ridley. You know, you have to build around Cordaro Patterson and Kyle Pitts. You can't depend on Matt Ryan to throw out to receivers because he doesn't have any anymore. So build the game plan around Patterson and Pitts, and maybe you can produce some kind of offense. That's what they did against the Jaguars. And if they can continue doing that, they maybe not much success this season, but in future seasons, I think they have their guys that can help produce.
Yeah, all I'm going to add for me is kind of echoing a little bit what you said, Brian. Atlanta really has to figure things out because it looks like Matt Ryan's tenure at Atlanta slowly is being limited, honestly. And it very well looks like because Julio Jones is no longer there, Ridley taking a little bit of a break, it doesn't look like Kyle Pitts, the rookie tight end sensation, can handle the load. And it looks like Cordaro Patterson or our big, supporter. I feel like this show is very high on aboard Cordaro. And if it's not him, if he gets banged up or anything, that whole offense just disappears. So it's scary to see this much stock into one player. There aren't many teams whose whole identity is off of one player. That was very like Derrick Henry-esque with the Tennessee Titans. And you can make arguments of maybe some other teams that can lean that heavily. But the way that Atlanta's doing it does have a little bit of a scare. But I feel like right now, that's the few bright spots of Atlanta.
Great for fantasy, not great for the Atlanta Falcons. I saw a stat earlier today. I don't have it in front of me, but it was something like 83% of Atlanta's yards were Cordaro Patterson after contact. So after the first missed tackle, it was like, that's how good he is, which is like he's 30. This is not a guy who's a rookie or even a second or third year player. He's been in the league on multiple teams.
Brian, were we robbed? were we robbed of the great prime years of Corduroy? Like, were we robbed as fans?
I'm kind of hoping, I know he's 30, but I'm kind of hoping like there's not much tread on the tires. I'm hoping that because he hasn't had the usage of somebody like a Zeke, who's already had, I don't know, 1,000 carries at this point. Like he's still got some tread left. And the fact that he plays wide receiver and running back, I'm hopeful because I don't want to think of a world where we only get one good Corduroy year here, Tommy. I'm not gonna will that into existence.
Yeah, I think as NFL fans, we would want that. What were you saying, Anthony?
Do you guys remember when he was the kick return guy? He was always doing the kick returns, always getting touchdowns. You know, that was kind of what he was known for.
Right.
And I mean, that's how I remember him. And now he's playing actual offense. It's kind of cool to see.
Playing it, and it is really, really good at it. This
just better than like when he has the ball in his hands, even if it's like a 2-yard run up the middle, just when he has the ball, you just see a burst and you're like, wait, what was that? Did my TV like skip a beat? I'm like, oh no, that's just a burst that a 30-year-old man has that these 25, 27-year-old linebackers can't beat him to. Like, it's unbelievable. It's awesome.
Yeah, it has been fun to watch. Let's move on to the afternoon games. Denver Broncos, speaking of up and down teams, 28, Chargers 13. Denver was in control of this the entire game. The Chargers, one of their biggest weaknesses on defense is the run game. I figured Denver would take advantage of it. They did. Teddy Bridgewater was efficient, which is all he needs to be. The defense played well. I'm continuing to become more and more concerned with this Chargers offense. We've actually spoken about it in past episodes of this show, but it's not getting fixed. So I don't have a lot to add other than Javonte Williams looked good. The Broncos, just great team effort, offense and defensive side of the ball, controlled this game from the start in a very crucial AFC West division matchup.
Yeah, I'll just add in my 2 cents. Sorry, Anthony. I'll just be real quick and just say this was exactly the game that Denver likes to play. They want to have the stranglehold, control the tempo and everything. But I think as much as I want to applaud Denver, I feel like it's just hard not to talk about the Chargers because that's the exciting team to talk about. But you see Herbert kind of struggle. You see them be heavily reliant on Keenan Allen, and they're trying to get the ball to Mike Williams. But there's just no chemistry. It's just so weird to see someone like Herbert struggle a little bit right now, even though he's having a great statistical season. But Anthony, I would love to hear some of your thoughts.
Yeah, I was very high on the Chargers for a while, and I'm like, they have an opportunity to. I mean, how cool would it be to have an LA versus LA Super Bowl in LA? that would be pretty cool, right? It's not gonna happen because
you know what we're gonna get? Freaking Brady versus Belichick Super Bowl. It's gonna happen.
That'd be so spicy.
It's gonna happen. Will just die and go to heaven instantly.
That'd be fun. So I don't know. It was weird to see the Chargers not play well. I mean, the Broncos, they're always good on defense. But the Chargers had more time of possession in that game than the Broncos did, and they had 13 points produced. Like, that's not good. If you have the ball for that long and you can only put up 13 points, then something is wrong on the offensive side of the ball. And Justin Herbert, he's doing just fine. Keenan Allen, he's doing just fine. Mike Williams, Austin Eckler didn't get very many touches. But if these guys with a lot of talent can come together and produce a better offense, maybe it's a coaching thing, maybe it's a talent thing, I don't know. But something is wrong and it has to be fixed. And this game here proved that something is wrong in LA with the Chargers, and they're going to have to figure that out because the Broncos are not that good of a team, and they made them look really good.
I definitely think, and once again, this is something we've mentioned before, that there's something with the offensive play calling. Something about Joe Lombardi's offense is not quite unleashing because they're not lacking talent. They upgraded their offensive line. They got one of the best running backs in the NFL, one of the best receiving cores with Mike Williams and Keenan Allen. You've got some weapons at tight end. Jared Cook a little bit older, but he's a reliable tight end. Yet they're not putting up points. And I will say this: as good as Air Bear Justin Herbert has been all season, he actually was not good in this game. Worst PFF grade of the year, 55.7, where his season average has been 85.8. So that concerns me. Kudos to Pat Surtain. I guess we shouldn't spend all the time on the Chargers. 2 interceptions. One was a pick 6. It was a deflection. I guess technically a drop by Eckler, but it was behind him. It just was not a very easily catchable ball. But Surtain's there, runs all the way back to. three teams right now tied at 6-5 in the AFC West. Raiders, Chargers, Broncos, right behind the Chiefs. So an interesting division, at least. Interested to see how that finishes up. Let's go over to the frozen tundra, Lambeau Field. Green Bay Packers 36, Los Angeles Rams 28. Similar to, I don't remember what game we were talking about earlier, Tommy, where you said the score didn't really indicate. This score didn't really indicate that the Rams scored late. The Packers were absolutely in control of this game from start to finish. Matt Stafford threw his third consecutive pick six in 3 consecutive games. I'm starting to have concerns about the Rams offense. They've now dropped 3 straight. They have not won a single game since adding Von Miller or Odell Beckham Jr., although at least OBJ caught a touchdown. I mean, he contributed. Von Miller, I think, had a single QB hit, no additional pressures, had a roughing the passer at one point. Tommy, we'll start with you on this. Anything to gain from this? It looks like Green Bay just continues to roll, but what are your concerns with the Rams?
Yeah, I feel like that's the takeaway right there is what's wrong with the Rams. Like everyone's making those funny memes of like what Les Snead or whatever, the GM of the Rams saying, buck those picks. We don't need them. And I've never seen a team this transparent of being all in. They're still sniffing like McVay's farts and just being like, oh my God, we love everything about you. We'll do anything we can to make you happy and make your offensive work. Well, yeah, all right, fine. You don't want Goff? We'll get Stafford. You want more? Here, we'll get more. Blah, 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 blah. And something's not working, which is weird because at the beginning of the year, there were powerhouses. And on a team with Stafford, Cooper Kupp, OBJ, along with that defense with Ramsey, Donald, and now Von Miller. And just, I'm being so disrespectful because I'm not talking about the Van Jeffersons and the depth players that really make the Rams kind of a bit more different than just a top-heavy superstar team because they're not. But if we are to believe that all these players are this talented and McVay is as good as a coach that the NFL wants us to believe he is, then why are they struggling? So what, like, I'm just wondering, where are the excuses now? People kept making excuses for McVay. Oh, he was held back by Goff. Or now it was, oh, the defense couldn't do this. Or now it's this. So I don't know. I feel like the excuses are slowly drying up, and I guess Mr. Rogers is back and being able to run in touchdowns with a broken toe or whatever. But yeah, it's just not a good look for the Rams. Do you have to agree with that?
Could be COVID toe. I'm still not convinced it's not COVID toe.
It's a COVID toe. No, I love that. I love that conspiracy theory. But is that, am I being like overly critical, or is the time kind of running out for McVay? Not in the hot seat saying he's going to be fired or anything, but once again, I feel like people always kind of do mental gymnastics to make excuses for the Rams, but eventually the excuses have to stop and say maybe they're just not as good as we all think they should be with the roster and the talent that they have.
Let's hear from the future Rams fan.
I love it.
I don't know about that anymore. They've been losing a lot. I won't work for another.
Oh, you're used to that though. Oh, I'm sorry. That was mean. I'm an Eagles fan. I have no room to talk.
No, Stafford, he looked like he did 2 years ago in Detroit. Lately, and it's not, you can't blame the receiving core now. You can't blame the offensive line. You can't blame the defense now. You can't blame the coach. You cannot blame any of these. I think it's all on Matthew Stafford right now, and he needs to figure it. I mean, he played injured. He had 3 injuries that were listed by McVay that he played with, and I'm not saying that's an excuse because it's not. A quarterback to that caliber should be able to go out and perform. I mean, especially in Lambeau Field against Aaron Rodgers Packers. I mean, it's already going to be a tough game, and they put up points. There were moments where I'm like, oh, they're going to come back, turnover. Oh, they're going to come back, turnover. Pundit it for some reason, and I'm like, okay, they're not going to come back. I'm like, this game's done. The Packers are just going to keep on scoring. They're going to keep stopping Stafford. It's not going to work. The Rams are done. I don't think this is a Super Bowl team anymore unless something can be figured out.
And here's something to keep in mind. You're 100% right with that, with Stafford being a big issue, Anthony, but Stafford doesn't play defense. Even if you take away that pick six, this vaunted Rams defense let up 29 points. You can't be a contender, just like we talked about with Dallas, missing Cooper and Lamb, but they're not playing on the other side of the ball. They have issues on both sides of the ball in LA, and that is a problem that is going to be very tough to overcome in a very top-heavy NFC. I was just looking at their schedule. They have only beat one team with a winning record. That's it. They beat the Bucs in week 3. Every other team that they have won against currently either has a 500 record or a losing record. Maybe
That's
the
not
Rams.
good, boss.
Maybe this trading all your draft picks and spending all your money on.
Wait, you're
like
telling
a
me
1 to
that's
2
not a
year
good
window.
idea?
I'm saying
not too
we'll
upset
see.
about it because if they don't have a good season, then I get their first round pick. So
That's true. That's true.
Touche. Good point. All right, so let's move over to the last afternoon game. Minnesota Vikings 26, San Francisco 49ers 34. This was actually a pretty entertaining game. The 49ers, same thing, close game, but the Niners I felt were just in control the whole time. It didn't really feel like one of those games like, oh, the Vikings are about to make a comeback. I don't have any additional context here. Deebo Samuel, just like our boy Cordaro, playing the role of running back with an additional 2 rushing touchdowns. He
He's
did get injured.
unbelievable.
He did get injured, strained
That's
his
big talk.
groin. Not serious. Looks like he's going to be out 1 to 2 weeks. Big loss for them, but still Elijah Mitchell put up yards. You've still got Ayuk. You've still got George Kittle. You've got Jimmy G playing well enough and the defense playing better. The 49ers are back in the playoff hunt.
That division is just so tricky. But I feel like I'm sure we'll get there soon when we talk about Seattle and what's going on over there. But that division is just so tough, and you just think that San Francisco won't be that much of a threat as long as, people aren't very threatened of Jimmy G and that all the kind of injuries that the 49ers face typically with the running back group, along with, Deebo getting hurt. I understand that the groin injury isn't too serious, but any soft tissue damage kind of injury always has to concern you a little bit. And just the groin area, hopefully he'll be okay, especially just because he's just been so much fun to watch. But yeah, I feel like the takeaway, it was a lot of fun game to watch. But also another thing we want to talk about, speaking of injuries, is definitely Dalvin Cook. His shoulders, both shoulders, are kind of messed up right now. So a lot of people who watch football would love to watch Dalvin Cook play, especially for fantasy reasons too. So that's something to keep an eye on, because it seems like anytime Cook is active, Minnesota is very, very good at just getting him the ball. They don't really care of easing anyone in. So I would keep an eye out on that, because Dalvin Cook, they're just running that guy into the ground.
So currently, the playoff picture, the 49ers are in as the 6th seed, and the Vikings are the first team out at 8. Guess who's number 7? The football team.
Woo.
You love to see.
Currently in the play. Will would be so happy. The team he planted his flag for. Taylor Heineke. The defense playing better. We don't have to go into that. Well, we'll go into that shortly because we're going to go over the Monday Night Football game. Let's move to Sunday Night Football. Snooze Fest, the AFC North. The Bengals are the most exciting team to watch in this division. The Baltimore Ravens 16, the Browns 10. I'm pretty sure there were 27 turnovers between these two teams.
Yeah, I'll take the over.
Lamar had 3 or 4 interceptions. Baker had 2 to 3. Just a sloppy game. The Ravens win, and technically they're the number 1 seed in the AFC. I don't know. And granted, they were without Lamar last week, but they're not necessarily playing like a team that, like, oh yeah, that team's going to dominate and get the 1 seed. Don't have a whole lot to add to this game.
Where was Nick Chubb? That's the question I was asking myself. Where is Nick Chubb? Because if they would have just depended on him to make plays, but they didn't. Instead, they said, "Hey Baker, throw to the other team." If I feel like if Nick Chubb could have ran over the Ravens defense, and it was such a low-scoring game, and the Cleveland Browns defense did such a good job that if a decent run game would have won the game for them, but it didn't. I think Cleveland's out now, but the Ravens aren't looking good either. Like you said, the Bengals are the better team in this division, and this kind of shows that.
So Browns currently at 6-6. If you're actually seeding everybody, they'd be 11th, but they're only a half a game out of the 7th spot, the playoff spot. This AFC race is extremely crowded. Even the Dolphins at 13 are only 2 games out at 5-7. This is like just a jumbled mess that will be exciting to see how it plays out. Any additional insight, or can we move on? Like I missed the poop game last year where Lamar came out like that was an exciting Browns-Ravens game. This one was not. Let's go ahead and finish up. Let's go to Monday Night Football. Another game that not all that exciting from a scoring perspective. I felt like Washington was fun to watch in this one. Seattle was just.
That's what I was thinking.
What is up with the Seahawks?
Taylor Heineke looks unbelievable. He looks so good.
Interesting. I found out during the broadcast that his idol is Brett Favre, and that's why he wears number 4. And I kind of like, he kind of plays like Favre a little bit, kind of like that gunslinger.
YOLO.
YOLO kind of makes some, the Fitzpatrick's kind of in the same field, like can make the plays. You love his aggressiveness, maybe make some dumb decisions sometimes, but he's always going to go for it. He's not going to be scared. He's not going to be conservative, and that's fun to watch. It has led Washington into a 3-game winning streak. The defense is playing much better. They've actually allowed less than 20 points on average over the last 3 games. So they were one of the worst defenses in the NFL over the first half of the season. Now they're finally starting to come together. As I mentioned, technically at this moment, Washington is the 7th seed. Do we think this continues? So let's talk about Washington first, and then we'll talk about Seattle.
Yeah, I could definitely see it. I mean, Heineke he had a rhythm last night, and it worked. And the defense did show up, and because of that, Heineke was able to bring the team to victory. I mean, only 17 points, but I mean, it's 17-15, but the Seahawks scored in the last quarter, so they had control of this game for the most part. With Chase Young being out, that's not very helpful to that defense. But if you can keep just being explosive on offense in the run game and the pass game, and they had a decent run game too. What they have? 152 rushing yards on top of the passing, and I just thought it was very impressive. It was very entertaining to watch. The Seahawks just don't look that good, but Washington looks very good, and I think we have to give a lot of credit to the football team as well.
Antonio Gibson has been looking good. I wonder if he's finally healthy. He'd been dealing with a shin injury, like a partially fractured shin, but he was able to play through it. So maybe he's getting a little healthier, but he's looked really sharp over this win streak. Arrow up for Washington, Tommy.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I feel pretty bad because Chase Young is a very fun player to watch. Unfortunately, he did get hurt for the rest of the year, so it's kind of weird to see the defense really come and start gelling kind of after the fact that he got hurt. But for the most part, I just cannot, and this is coming from an Eagles fan, I cannot get enough of Taylor Heineke. Like, he's exactly what you want. Yes, he's going to make some boneheaded mistakes, but name someone who doesn't have some boneheaded mistakes. Like, Brady has some weird mistakes here and there too. But the one thing he won't do is he won't bore you in dink and dunk. He will put his life on the line, try to get that extra inch, extra yard, no matter how it looks. He is going to will and try his best. He puts it all out on the field. And I don't know. If I'm just a kid watching football for the first time and I watch, say, Teddy Bridgewater. Nothing against Teddy Bridgewater. He's a great quarterback. But, he kind of plays it safe. He doesn't do too much, but he doesn't lose you the game. But then you see Heineke, who may lose you the game because he gets risky, but he definitely will try his best. It's just so much fun to watch, and I feel like the players are slowly rallying around what Heineke brings to the table, and it just brings a smile to my face because his story is something that will make you really happy. And I think the statistic was he's the only current regular starter in the NFL of all 32 teams that went undrafted. I mean, it's just a story that brings a smile to your face. So as a weird Eagles fan, it's weird to cheer on Washington, but I am definitely a Taylor stan.
So the Seattle Seahawks fall to 3-8. They are ahead of only the winless Lions in the NFC. So as top heavy as this NFC is, I think we can pretty confidently write the Seahawks off at this point. I don't think there's really much of a shot at them making it. They're one of the maybe 4 teams who really aren't in the hunt.
They said this is the first time Russell Wilson has ever had 8 losses in a season.
Jeez, wow.
Ever.
That's telling. So there's a couple things I want to dive into this before we move on into the Hires and Flyers. One, Shane Waldron, the Sean McVay coaching tree was supposed to come in and light up and ignite this Seattle offense. Hasn't done that. The defense has actually been decent. The defense is, unlike last year and past, the defense is not the issue. The offense is. So my question is Russell Wilson going to be a Seahawk next year?
No, I don't.
Yeah.
I'm
starting to think that too.
That's weird for me to say because when the whole Aaron Rodgers thing came out, I was the old curmudgeon, the grumpy guy saying, guys, why do we keep speculating? Like, it's not going to happen. Like, no,
Get
it's
off
not.
my
blah, blah, blah.
lawn.
Exactly. I was like, guys, come on. We're just part of the media that's speculating. But when I see Russ, I don't know what it is. Like, it's so weird. Like, Pete Carroll comes out saying, if it wasn't for Russ, I wouldn't have been an NFL head coach for as long because that's kind of a testament to how good he is. And then now he comes out saying, oh, like, it's Russell Brun's like, well, the tape doesn't lie. He definitely missed a lot there. Like, I don't know. Just when I watch Russell Wilson play right now, he's not the, because at one time I honestly thought, and it might be just because I'm young, one of the best quarterbacks I've ever seen. Like, he does things other quarterbacks I have never seen like do. And anytime the game's on the line, Russell's going to do it again. But now, like, I think the perfect microcosm of how to explain the Seahawks is, do you guys remember that one play this game where Russell Wilson was kind of scrambling around back there and he just took a sack? He could have easily thrown away, but he just like fell.
And I was like, he's like, I'm good.
Yeah, he's like, I'm done. And I'm just like,
never
what?
seen him do that before.
I've never seen that ever. And you can't say that's a hand problem. Like, I could throw the ball out of bounds with like my left hand. You know what I mean? Like, and Russell Wilson's 10 times more built than I am. Like, when I saw that, I saw someone giving up, and I've never seen that in Russ before. So that's the reason. Maybe I'm being too dramatic, but that's the main reason I'm like, oh man, this is real. Like, this is unbelievable. But Anthony, do you think he's a Seahawk next year?
No, I think he's going to go a different direction. I definitely don't see him playing for Seattle again. After this season, they're going to be like, all right, you're done. And he already wanted to leave in the first place. Mm-hmm. So it's all going to come together. What do you think they're going to do next year in quarterback? Are they going to keep Geno Smith?
No, I mean, that's not a starter. Come on. We love a good Geno story around here, but no, that's interesting. They don't have a whole lot of draft picks. They don't have a lot of, I think they only have 3 picks in the early. They're another team similar to LA that has just been content to trade off their early picks. Mm-hmm. But I mean, we could see Pete Carroll retire, Russ go somewhere. Like, this could be a true starting over.
The refresh. Legion of Boom feels like centuries ago now,
decades ago. It's crazy.
That era, yeah, I think the Russell Wilson era in Seattle is coming to an end.
It'll be interesting to track in the offseason. It'll certainly give us, as an NFL podcast, content to talk about, but it's a little sad to watch during the season, an end of an era. So let's go ahead and move on to our DFS Hires and Flyers presented by DraftKings. Football fans, I'm sure we all love an action-packed, high-scoring NFL game, but with the latest no-brainer from DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL, you'll be a winner once a single point scored. New customers who bet just $1 on any team to score can win $100 in free bets. It's that simple. You just need to bet on the team to score. It could be a safety, field goal, doesn't matter. If Sportsbook isn't available in your state yet, you can still get in on the NFL action. Everyone can play for huge cash prizes all season long with DraftKings daily fantasy sports contests, including our free contest. DraftKings is giving all new customers a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes with their first deposit. Just download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code TPPN. Bet $1 on any team to score and win $100 in free bets. If they score, you score with promo code TPPN this week at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Must be 21 or older, New Jersey, Indiana, or Pennsylvania only. New customers only. Minimum $5 deposit, $1 wager required, 1 per customer. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. By the way, great job, Tommy, on the ad read while I was out. Just want to give you the kudos on that.
Definitely not as good as you, but I just try to hold that torch. You know, I couldn't let you down there.
You did. You kept it going. We got the ad read on TPPN, DraftKings. I'm sure if they were listening, which they really should be, they'd be super happy with how you held that torch. So let's go ahead and jump into our Hires and Flyers. A quick reminder, if you are listening for the first time, this is our daily fantasy. DraftKings will recommend 2 players at each position, one who is a higher price player who we feel is primed to produce, either due to matchup, due to opportunity, to justify that higher price, and then a flyer, someone who is a lower price budget play who, for those same reasons, we think is primed to really return on the price that you put in. So make sure, and we'll plug it again, there's only a few weeks left. Join our draft. We have a free DraftKings league. FREE free, 100% free. You can win cash prizes. We actually pay out the top 3. All you have to do to join is just email us at pigskinpartypodcast@gmail.com or hit us up on Twitter at officialpppod and just say, hey, I want to get in that free DraftKings thing. Take our money. Please take my money because it's really coming from me. Well, it's coming from our sponsors because we are actually sponsored by DraftKings. So we're going to go ahead and start at quarterback. It looks like all 3 of us have some hires and flyers, so this is exciting. So what we'll do is I want to do, we'll each go through higher and then we'll each go through flyer. I don't know can't remember if that's what you guys did last week, but I'm back. I make the rules. That's what we're going to do this week. So my higher for this week. Now this is assuming he plays. All signs indicate that he is trending towards playing. He needs to have a healthy week of practice, but Kyler Murray on track to play this week against the Chicago Bears, 7,500. Faces a Bears D that does not have Khalil Mack. He's been out since week 7, but he's officially on IR. Looks like he's going to be done for the year. And I think he comes out hot, missing 3 games. Kudos to Colt McCoy, won 2 out of those 3. Cardinals still the number 1 seed in the NFC, but I think Kyler's the type that he's been itching to play. He gets in there against a very susceptible Bears defense, and I could just see him going out there and just lighting up the scoreboard. We'll go Tom. We'll go Brian, Tommy, Anthony. We'll keep it like in sync.
Gotcha. I am gonna go with my hire. It's not even that expensive. Only $6,100 on DraftKings, of course. Mr. Carson Wentz. Colts at the Houston Texans. Wentz, although they lost against the Buccaneers, he did pretty solid. I believe he put up 26 points behind 306 yards, 3 tutties. I mean, he did pretty solid. He was not the reason they lost. So why am I picking Carson Wentz specifically against Houston? Well, yeah, I drank the Kool-Aid. T.Y. Hilton, T.Y. Houston, anyone? For those of you who don't know, T.Y. Hilton has gotten like 80% of his yards in his career against Houston. That's not a real fact, but I feel like every time
sounds right.
T.Y. Hilton, I know, right? I feel like every time T.Y. Hilton plays against Houston, he explodes. Any game those years where you heard, oh, T.Y. Hilton's got 200 yards this game? That's nuts. That was most likely against Houston. Like anytime you hear him pop off, it's against them. So if this prophecy is yet to come true again, it will be the fact that, hey, it looks like he went off and Carson Wentz will be very happy. $6,100. That's all. Should be fun.
I'm going to pick Tom Brady as my hire for this one. And it's because he played against a really good defense, 226 yards with a touchdown, focused on Gronkowski, but he still performed. And now he's against the not a very good pass defense. And so I think he could put up enough numbers for your lineup or your league. And I think the score is going to be high enough to where they're just going to be running anyway, but I think he's going to be putting up numbers against Atlanta. So
my flyer at quarterback this week, we talked about him already a little bit. How about some Taylor Heineke love?
I love it.
I'm not crazy about the cheap quarterbacks this week. I will probably go with somebody like Kyler Murray if he's playing. But if you want to save money at the quarterback position, Taylor Heineke only 5,600 against the Raiders. Rushing ability was going to give him a higher floor going up against the 23rd ranked defense as far as on DraftKings versus quarterbacks in Las Vegas. This could be a game script thing where the Raiders put up points. Washington has to keep up. So Heineke doesn't have a huge ceiling, but once again, this is a price play. If you're looking to save money, that's probably the direction I would go.
I'm going to do it, dude. I'm going to do it. You can't stop me. $5,200 for a quarterback? What? Is that a mistake? No, it's not. Because I'm picking Jared Goff on the Detroit Lions.
Whoa.
Going against the Vikings. Mike Zimmer's great defense. What? Why, Tommy? What are you doing? Why are you sabotaging my DFS lineup?
Yeah.
This is why I shouldn't take Tommy's advice. Hold on.
I disagree.
While that might be
The Lions
true.
fan disagrees.
While that might be true, and take this with a grain of salt, I'm not that great at DFS, but this is my reasoning at least. I mean, Goff played fine against, the Chicago Bears defense, or Chicago in general, who's probably playing with a lot of emotions and things like that, being in the media so much. They're trying to just play a game on Thanksgiving, but he still tossed 2 touchdowns and almost beat the Bears. Although it didn't happen, it was close. And then once again, now they play the Vikings. The Vikings are almost last. They're second to last in fantasy points allowed to quarterback. So it's just not a good matchup, even though the defense does pretty well. And if we want to play the numbers game and we honestly think that the Lions can pull off a win at some point. Maybe it's against Atlanta like we guessed, but hey, maybe against Minnesota. Who knows? Minnesota's also been up and down too. If an upset is on the menu, that's all I'm saying. If an upset were to happen, it would be because Jared Goff has to deliver the goods against, like I said, a defense that does give up a lot of points to the quarterback. So it might not look pretty, but the matchup wise, $5,200, Jared Goff, I mean, give it a shot.
Interesting. I want to You know what? I'm going to make a lineup, and I'm going to put Jared Goff in that lineup because I'm curious now. I'm curious.
And you will lose money whatever you put in that lineup.
And then you're going to be like, Tommy, I'm never listening to you again.
Make sure it's like $1. Maybe sure it's like $1 contest or something.
One of those 5-cent ones.
Yep.
And if it works out, then we could take a victory lap together and be like, thank you for believing in me.
No, if it works out and you bet $1 and you win $2, Tommy gets $1. He gets half.
There we go. So I'm going to pick Tua Tagovailoa as my flyer because I like the way he's been playing. I like it a lot. And he's been targeting Jalen Waddle a lot, too, who has been making great catches for touchdowns and yards. And I think he's a good option this week. The Giants shut down Jalen Hurts, but I think they were being too experimental after a good performance. But I think the Dolphins are going to come out with a established game plan, and that game plan is going to be around Tua. I say put him in for, what's he at, 5,500. I think that'd be a good option.
Yeah, I think Jalen Hurts likes to actually throw the ball downfield. Tua is not that he won't, but he only does it a handful of times a game. It's a very RPO heavy, very quick offense. It's a different attack than the Eagles did against the Giants, and I do think that they will utilize their running backs, Gaskin and Phillip Lindsay. So yeah, at that price point, I don't hate it, and I'm always gonna love a Dolphins pick. Thank you, Anthony. Moving on to running back. This one just seems like a slam dunk. It's one that's probably gonna get a lot of play. Meaning a lot of people are he's just going to have high usage in lineups across DFS. Joe Mixon, 8,100. Seems like it's still a bit of a steal as far as price goes. I mean, he's, I think, the third most expensive running back. There's two running backs still ahead of him, including Jonathan Taylor. And I looked at Jonathan Taylor, but Jonathan Taylor is over $1,000 more against the Chargers, who are 32nd in the NFL in rush yards per game. Joe Mixon, by the way, 25 or more points in 5 of his last 6 games. We talked about him being under the radar. Mixon just produces week in and week out. This is an offense that heavily relies on getting Mixon the ball, not just to move the ball on the ground, but the play action. It opens things up for Joe Burrow in that passing attack. You can't really stack the box because if you do, you have to worry about Chase and Boyd and Higgins. There's just so many weapons, and Burrow is great at getting them the ball. Maybe that's one of the reasons Mixon is really having maybe one of his best fantasy seasons ever. But at 8,100, I'm probably just going to put him in every lineup, just letting you know now.
Yeah, that is not bad at all. Maybe it's because I've been influenced a little bit on Thanksgiving and Black Friday, but if you guys remember, I was all about the bargain bin. And when I go to the running back section, I'm not too high, but I guess the most expensive running back I have my eye on right now is still somewhat of a bargain, and it's Mr. James Robinson. Playing against the Los Angeles Rams, only 6,200. He is fresh off of a 20-touch performance, and that's the first time he hit that mark this year since, halfway through the year, like week 6 or something like that. And it looks like, he had a little bit of an injury, had a bruised heel that forced him to miss something, but it looks like playing against the Rams, who are the heavy favorites. So a lot of people are saying, wait, Tommy, why are you picking James Robinson? I don't understand the logic. Well, if you look at the Jacksonville Jaguars right now, they are depleted with talent. I mean, Trevor Lawrence is trying all he can to kind of do what he can do to keep that offense moving, but James Robinson is the running back or the most talented skill position player on that team. So I feel like even if they're losing, they're going to still get him involved through the air, through the ground, whatever it may be, but the volume, in my opinion, will be there, and he's just too good to not work out. So although he might not be too expensive, I do like James Robinson.
When I'm picking a running back, the first running back, not the second, I like to take two things into account. I like to think how many touches are they going to get and who are they playing. And this time I'm going to go with Alexander Mattison at $7,600 because the Lions have allowed 133 rush yards per game. And with Dalvin Cook being out, he's going to be the starter. And if he gets a good amount of touches, I think he will find the end zone maybe a couple times, but he's going to get a good amount of yards against a very struggling run defense of the Lions. I think that'd be a good option for a good-looking amount of 7,600.
Going on to the Flyers at running back, Antonio Gibson, only 5,700 versus the Raiders. He's averaging nearly 19 points per game, on DraftKings over the last 3 games. So he is finally starting to. There was a lot of hype around Gibson before the season started. I drafted him in a bunch of leagues. He's finally starting to come into that. And to add on to that, J.D. McKissick's status is unknown for this week. He was actually carted off the field with a neck injury. There's been some things out there saying he's actually okay, but there has been no status clarification from the Washington football team about what that means as far as missing any time. I mean, you get carted off the field, even if you're okay, as his agent said.
Doesn't look good.
It's kind of hard to believe you'll play the very next week, but even with him in, McKissick has been in there, and Gibson has still been putting up points. And the Raiders are 28th versus the running backs on DraftKings. So it just feels like a number of different things at that price point. Gibson is another running back I'm probably going to be putting in a lot of my lineups.
That's an excellent pick. That was actually my very first pick until I saw that you had him. I was like, all right, I will default to you, but for $100 more, which isn't as good as the value. But I'm going to look at Mr. Myles Gaskin from Miami against the New York Giants. Don't look now, but it looks like Gaskins has it figured out. The past 2 games, he's averaging 18.6 points, and the past 3 is 16.7. So, I mean, those averages look pretty good, and it doesn't hurt that they're going up against a 29th ranked fantasy rushing defense in New York, and it looks like Gaskin is getting more and more involved, whether it's something out of the Wildcat or just any which way to get him the ball. I am buying it, especially for $5,800 anytime. For sure, Myles Gaskins.
Questionable, but will probably play, Darrell Henderson of the Rams. He didn't get that many touches as against the Packers like I was hoping he would, because I had him on a few of my lineups. But I think against Jacksonville, he could actually find some more yards and maybe get into the end zone a few times.
By the way, I'll mention this when we get to defenses, but what a great opportunity for the Rams after what they've been dealing with, that they get to face the Jacksonville Jaguars this week. That's as get-right of a get-right game as you get.
I agree.
Absolutely agree.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I agree with that. Henderson against the Jag. I think the Rams are going to get out early. They'll rely on the run. You could stack them with the Rams defense. There's a little teaser for the defensive section. One other I want to mention, I don't have him. Obviously, I picked Gibson as my flyer, but here's another one that should probably a good add to your lineups. In that same Detroit-Minnesota game, Jamal Williams. DeAndre Swift is... the injury looks not as bad as initially thought, but to be determined whether he plays. If he's out, Jamal Williams is going to get almost all of that rushing production against a very susceptible Vikings run defense, and he's only 5,400. So just additional, if DeAndre Swift misses this game, Jamal Williams is a play that you should try to put in a lot of different lineups. Let's move on to wide receiver, but stay in that same game. This one is one of the most no-brainer picks to me. Jefferson, 82 Lions. I don't really need to say much else. He's averaging not just shy of 20 points a game for the whole season. Like, this is a guy with a floor around 20 points going up against the Detroit Lions. Lions secondary can even remotely cover Justin Jefferson, who is slowly turning into one of 5 wide receivers in the league. He's that good. No other analysis.
Yeah, no, I absolutely love that pick. Sometimes you got to take the low-hanging fruit, and he's been nothing but dominant. The guy I'm going to pick, man, Bri, I feel like I'm making you a little too happy. I'm going to take another Miami Dolphin, and you guys should not be surprised. It's a rookie sensation, Jalen Waddle from the Miami Dolphins, going up against, yet again, the New York Giants.
Yeah, love to hear it.
DraftKings has him only has 6,400. You do really love to hear it. Only 6,400. And why did I pick him? Well, maybe because he hauled in 9 of 10 targets last game for 137 yards and a touchdown against Carolina's defense. That's actually pretty darn good in my book. And now he gets to go against the Giants. People are thinking, wait, hold on a second. They're pretty good. They just beat the Eagles. No. Don't be fooled. I'm an Eagles fan and I understand it's not. I don't want to take too much away from the Giants, because they definitely looked pretty solid against the Eagles, but the Eagles also didn't do themselves any favors what they did. But the way that Jalen Waddle's doing, they always say rookie wide receivers, or rookies in general, always do better in the second half because they figure it out. Something clicks, the game slows down. Whatever that is, Jalen Waddle has looked good the entire year, even the beginning of the year, even when he wasn't supposed to look good with questionable quarterback play. But now he's hitting. Now he has that chemistry with Tua. I mean, for $6,400, I know he's supposed to be a flyer, but that's still an arguable, bargain in my opinion. Right? Higher.
He's my higher category, yeah.
Yeah, he's my higher. So he's supposed to be high priced, but for $6,400, I'll do that any day of the week. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's in a bunch of my lineups this week.
Real quick, Anthony, before we get to you, at least for me, we've never set parameters around what's a higher and what's a flyer. How I personally judge it is the 6,000 threshold. If they're above 6,000, that's a higher. If they're below, flyer, at least in my book. So yeah, Jalen Waddle at 6,400, a very
perfect
value, but still qualifies as a higher. Anthony, go.
Cool. Yeah, I'm gonna pick Keenan Allen. I've been liking his performance, and he's been getting targeted quite often by Justin Herbert. And I think against the Bengals, it might be a little tough, but I think they're going to be able to target their best receiver and get some yards and some touchdowns. I think it's going to be a shootout game, very offensive. I could see that happening. I'd put Keenan Allen in your lineup.
So this next play for my flyer wide receiver, I'm going to have a caveat. This is very much a tournament play. I don't usually recommend specific tournament plays for my flyers. I like a flyer that I can still insert in a cash lineup. But this is the epitome of the boomer bust play. But it's a guy I think could be set up for a nice opportunity, especially at that price. And that is the great Deshaun Jackson, D-Jax, at only 4,200 price point against the Washington football defense, which, yes, I know the football team has been playing better defense, but that doesn't mean all he needs to do is get behind the defense once. He did that last week against the Cowboys, actually finished with 102 yards and a touchdown on Thanksgiving. We know that Derek Carr over the past 2 seasons has actually liked throwing the deep ball, whereas early in his career, he was a very condensed dink and dunk passer. We saw that with Henry Ruggs prior to him leaving the team. Deshaun Jackson actually, in his first game with the Raiders, also caught a deep ball, but then he fumbled it away. So he's still got it, at this age. Once again, it's as flyer gets, because he could very well have one target or 2 targets for 1 catch for 30 yards. It's possible. But at that price of 4,200, it'll leave you a budget elsewhere in your lineup. Washington football team, even though they've been playing better lately, is still 30th against wide receivers in DraftKings.
Oh boy, I don't know if I could beat that price, but I am not brave enough to play Deshaun Jackson. So for those of you who are not as brave as Brian, don't have the cajones as big as his, look at Hunter Renfrow, 5,800. Raiders playing Washington football team. He played pretty darn well Thanksgiving Day, and he did great. He's as steady as they come. He averages a little over 14 points per game, and he exploded for almost 25 points on Thanksgiving. And he's gotten more than 8 targets or more in 7 of the past 11 games he's been on the field. He's just unbelievable. So when he's on the field, he's gonna get the ball. Here's kind of getting more and more incorporated after kind of the change-ups that's happened on that offense with the Ruggs and John Gruden and all this and that. And if Darren Waller really is hurt, they got to feed Hunter Henry. He's too talented not to give the ball. And in that PPR format in DraftKings, he's going to feast.
I like that pick. But I want to go with Van Jefferson, who brought in a touchdown against the Packers. Pretty good amount of yards. He is one of those guys who's out there almost every play, not targeted all the time, but he can create separation. And he's great in man-to-man coverage, one-on-one man-to-man coverage. And that's what I took away from his performance. He's not the greatest pick, but for 5,300, and Stafford decides he wants to target him, he can produce points. And I think that'd be it's a risk to take, but if you take it, I think you'll get a good amount of points out of Jefferson.
So we are coming up on an hour and a half, so let's speed through these last few picks. Tight end, higher, Mark Andrews, 6,000 versus the Steelers. I'm not crazy about the higher price tight ends. If there is one to go with, it's got to be Andrews in my mind. 15 or more points in 3 straight games. He is averaging nearly 10 targets per game over those last 4 games, and the only one he had less than 10 targets, he still had 8. Heavy usage. There's not a ton of weapons in the passing game. You've got Marquise Brown deep, Bateman coming along, but we all know that Lamar Jackson loves to throw to Mark Andrews. So I'm going to go ahead and do my flyer. So we'll do the higher and the flyer to speed things up. My flyer at tight end, how about Logan Thomas? Only 4,000 against the Raiders, 6 targets in his first game off IR on Monday night. He actually had a touchdown that was called back, or he would have had a bigger game. At that price point of 4,000, Logan Thomas should be, I would say, like a top 5 to 7 tight end if he hadn't been injured for most of the season. So I think he's very much underpriced and a great opportunity to take advantage of that.
Yeah, I'll keep mine short too. Your hire is actually my hire as well, Mark Andrews. So I don't want to say too much besides the fact that he's pretty much scored at least 15 points, 3 of his past 4. And he also is pretty much going off because he's just in a position that's just so hard to predict. Mark Andrews, even if you have to pay up, even though I'm not that big fan, he's not that bad to have. And as for my flyer, I was also going to go Logan Thomas, but I'll pivot and go Dallas Goedert, only 4,500. He got completely shut down by the Giants, so I understand if people are kind of turned off by him. I don't expect this to continue, especially because the Eagles do play the Jets soon, which rank 23rd against PPR points allowed against tight ends. And it just doesn't look too good right now because they also surrendered a bunch of points to them, especially in the past 7 weeks. So for those reasons, I'm in on Dallas Goedert. I'm hoping that the Eagles do turn it around a little bit. And it also doesn't hurt that the Eagles have never lost to the Jets ever in NFL history in the regular season. So for all those reasons, I'm in on Mr. Dallas Goedert.
For my hire, it's a pretty low price, but I'm going to have to go with Gronkowski, though. He was targeted so many times, and he was just bringing in that ball all day long with Tom Brady passing to him. I think the farthest he threw was like 32 yards. Otherwise, it was to Fournette and to Gronkowski, and I think we might see a little bit of a repeat of that. So I would pick Gronkowski, and then for my flyer, I'm going to go with T.J. Hawkinson. He's always double covered. He's never available. But I think that's a good stack with Jared Goff because he was targeting a little bit more against Chicago, and I think he will find his way back up into the ranks as one of the better tight ends, and that might happen against Minnesota.
We will check in with you next week, Anthony, about your Jared Goff, TJ Hawkinson stack and see if it actually netted you any money. And as of Tommy, will definitely get half of whatever you win. All right, quickly moving on to the defenses. My hire, the Rams, the top defense on DraftKings at only 4,000 versus the Jaguars. We mentioned earlier, or I mentioned the perfect get-right spot for the Rams. Bad offense against what should be a good defense who's been struggling lately against good offenses. This seems like just the Aaron Donald Von Miller feast. And then my flyer, Washington football team, 2,500 versus the Raiders. Only allowed 18.3 points per game over the last 3 games, over that 3-game winning streak. The Raiders definitely have offensive line issues, so Washington has one of the better front 7. This could be a game where they get some sacks, get some points. 2,500. That's my flyer at D.
Yeah, I'll keep mine quick. I'm going to break a little bit of rules for Will, and this is what Brian says. Well, I'm like, after this. But no, I only have one team to talk about, especially when it comes to defense, and that is the 49ers, where 3,000 against Seattle. The 49ers defense has been averaging almost 11 points the past 3 games, and now they get to go up against a Seattle offense that has literally no identity, and Russell Wilson that looks like the heart isn't in it. Well, it looks like the formula looks pretty good. All they have to do is keep playing the way they have, and you should expect some good things. And only for 3,000, that's not too bad for San Fran.
So defense is a little bit hard to pick because everything's been so unpredictable lately. But at 3,700, a lot for a defense. But if you want points, I'd say the Colts against the Texans. The Colts defense, I think, would be a good pick here. And then for a flyer, if you just want to save a bunch of money and budget your defense, I would go with the Bengals at a surprising 2,800. They got 19 points last week. That's a lot of points for a defense in my book, and I put them in like 2 lineups. I was so excited about it. Cincinnati Bengals defense against the Chargers at home. I would definitely pick that because you're saving a lot of money there, and I think you can produce more points just like this week.
Okay, and another reminder that we do have a free, 100% free DraftKings weekly contest where we pay over $50 in cash prizes each week. The top 3 get paid. And all you have to do is just email us, pigskinpartypodcast@gmail.com. Or send us a message on Twitter, DM on Twitter, @officialpppod. And if you've never joined DraftKings, use that promo code TPPN. Get some free bet money. All you got to do is bet $1. Somebody scores. You got $100 in free bets. Winner, winner, chicken dinner. So, recap of the top 3 in our free DraftKings league from week 12. First place, our producer, Mr. Anthony Weiner, with 166.34 points. He's been kind of sniffing the top 3 all season. I think he finished 3rd at one point earlier in the season. This is his first win. Anthony, congrats. Good thing you didn't start Jared Goff or TJ Hawkinson. Might not have finished first. Second place, $15 cash prize. Dwight Schrute. That's clearly an Office reference, so I love it. Dwight Schrute with 152.90. Second place, and $5 for third place. Smooth238, one of our fans from the Halftime app, with 144.52.
Gosh, he's just so smooth.
Anthony does not qualify for any money as part of the show, but if Dwight Schrute or Smooth238 want their cash prizes, just email code word Lucas Oil Lenny. That's Lucas Oil Lenny to pigskinpartypodcast@gmail.com or DM us the code phrase @officialpppod on Twitter. Quick recap of our season-long show DFS league.
Oh, that's fine. It's okay.
I actually won week 12. This is the first
Let's go!
week I've won on our season-long. I won one time on our free DraftKings league. Host standings, Will still in first place with 1,475.2. I have moved past Tommy into second place with 1,366.36, but less than 10 points behind me, nipping at my heels. Tommy with 1,358.26. So we will continue to track that. Thank you so much for listening. Make sure to stick around for the flavor of the week, where we're going to preview all of the Week 13 games. We'll talk a little bit of in-season Indianapolis Colts Hard Knocks. Thanks as always for listening. Subscribe, tell friends, rate us, review, yada, yada, yada. Good to be back. Happy Thanksgiving, belated everybody. And we'll see you on the flavor of the week.
Go Birds.
Heineke.